So, good day everyone. We are from the Group 6 presenters, and our assigned topic is all about the Philippines, a century hence, letter to the women of Malolos on the indolence of the Filipinos. So, the Philippines, a century hence, published between September 30, 1889 to February 1, 1890. Originally written as Filipinas dentro de 100 años, this is a socio-political essay written in 4 parts in the magazines known as the La Solidaridad by Dr. Jose Rizal. It was translated by Charles Derbyshire. It was published in Madrid, Spain. So this essay analyzed the possible future of the Philippines after the 100 years. So, he examined the political, social, and cultural conditions of the country under the Spanish colonial rule and predicted how these conditions might influence the nation's future. So first, I will discuss to you the Rizal's mission for the Philippines' political and social future. First is the awakening of national consciousness. So Rizal believed that Filipinos would gradually develop a strong sense of national identity and awareness. So next is the demand for political reforms. Rizal predicted that Filipinos would demand equal rights and representation. So next in line is the possibility of revolution. Rizal warned that if the Spain ignored the demands of Filipinos, the people might eventually seek independence through revolution. So the last one is the vision of a progressive nation. So Rizal, or he believed that the development of the education and civic responsibility would help build a strong and independent nation. So next is the effects of colonial rule on Filipino identity. So first is the cultural influence and identity struggle. Second is the social inequality. And third is the loss and preservation of indigenous culture. And the last one is the growth of national identity.
By the way, I am Janelle Pinay, and today I'm going to discuss to you about the nationalism and the struggle for independence. So what is nationalism? So it refers to the deep love, loyalty, and sense of identity that people have for their country. So it is a strong feeling that unites citizens, especially during times of foreign domination, injustice, or oppression. So nationalism encourage people to protect their culture, rights, traditions, and freedom. So Dr. Jose Rizal became one of the greatest symbols of nationalism. So instead of using violence, he used his writings to awaken the minds of Filipinos. So through his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, he exposed the abuses and corruptions of Spanish friars and officials. So his words inspired many Filipinos to seek justice and freedom, and the struggle for independence. So it usually begins when the nation desires to govern itself and preserve its identity. So throughout history, many countries fought for freedom through unity, courage, and sacrifice. So some struggle were peacefully through reforms and writings, while others involved revolutions and armed resistance. So the struggles of many Filipinos during the time of Jose Rizal: farmers worked hard but remained poor because of unfair taxes, workers were forced to do labors without proper payment, and many Filipinos were punished for speaking against the government. So despite of fear and suffering, brave Filipinos continue to fight for the right, and many more. So the struggles for the independence in the Philippines. So first is we have the Spanish colonial period and the Philippine Revolution. It is in 1896 to 1898. So during the Spanish rule, Filipinos experienced unfair treatment, high taxes, and lack of freedom. So because of this, they developed nationalism and desire for independence. So in 1896, the Katipunan, led by Andres Bonifacio, started a revolution against Spain. So later, Emilio Aguinaldo continued the fight. So this is marked the beginning of the struggles for freedom. So the second one is the Declaration of Independence in 1898. So on June 12, 1898, Emilio Aguinaldo declared the independence of the Philippines in Kawit Cavite. So the Filipino flag was raised, symbolizing freedom from Spain. However, other countries did not fully recognize this independence because a new foreign power soon took control, so which is the Philippine-American War. So in 1899, in 1902, after the Spain sold the Philippines to the United States, Filipino resisted American rule. So a war broke out as Filipino continued to fight for true independence. So many Filipinos showed courage and sacrifice, but the United States eventually took control of the country. So the fourth one is the Japanese occupation in 1942 to 1945. So during the World War II, Japan occupied the Philippines. So Filipinos again fought for freedom through guerrilla groups and underground movements. So despite of hardships and violence, Filipinos continued to resist and protect their country. So the last one is the full independence in 1946. So on July 4, 1946, the Philippines was finally granted full independence by the United States. So this marked the end of long years of colonizations and struggle. So the official country became a sovereign nation with its own government. The role of education in shaping a nation. So education plays a very important role in shaping a nation because it is the foundations of knowledge, skills, and values of each citizen. So through education, people learn how to read, write, and think critically and become responsible members of society. So it helps individuals prepare for their futures and becomes productive citizens. So education is not only about academic learning. It also teaches discipline, respect, teamwork, leadership, and love for country. So when citizens are educated, they are more capable of making wise decisions, following laws, and helping improve their communities. So a nation with a quality of education often becomes a stronger and more progressive. So educated people can help in growth of the economy, government, science, technology, and other fields. So also, it creates an equal opportunities because it gives everyone the chance to improve their lives and achieve their dreams. So during the time of Dr. Jose Rizal, education becomes an important tool in the minds of Filipinos under the Spanish rule. So many Filipinos had limited access to quality educations and only a few were given opportunities to study. So Rizal believes that education was the key to freedom and progress. So there is a story that Rizal studied hard from a young age and become an excellent student. He continued his educations in Manila and later in Europe. So through his learning, he gained knowledge in medicines, language, arts, and writing. So he used his educations to expose the problems of society. So through his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, Rizal showed that education is a powerful weapon, not for violence, but for change. So he inspired Filipinos to value learning and use knowledge to fight injustice peacefully.
Before we start, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Christine Jane Guevara to Loving. Good morning. Today I will discuss two topics from Rizal's letter: women's role in nation building and their challenge in 19th century. Rizal saw women as social reformer. Number 1, educated children property, so they educate next generation. Number 2, reject superstition, so reject blind faith. Number 3, challenge prior abuses, so they fight the abuses. Number 4, promote family values, so they change socially from home onwards. Now, the challenge. Ano nga ba yung mga challenge before? So, no education. So, dati, yung mga babae, mostly mga babae, ay hindi sila nakakapag-aral dahil alam naman natin dati na meron silang mga kasabihan na ang dapat ang batang babae o kababaihan ay dapat sa bahay lamang. Number 2, forced child marriage. So, yung mga kababaihan dati, no, wala silang magagawa kung ipapakasal sila kahit hindi nila gusto. Number 3, prior control their lives. So, yun ang kinokontrol yung decision nila sa buhay. Tapos, confined to home. So, they stuck at home. Nag-stay lang sila sa home. Lalo na ang mga kababaihan. This paid challenge, Malolo 20 women won. They got their school and inspired everyone. Rizal was proud. So, that's all my topic.
So, good day everyone. I'm Rising Perial and the topic that I'm going to present to you is all about the mga kaisipan ni Jose Rizal mula sa kanyang maakda tulad ng The Philippines, A Century Hence on the Indolence of the Filipinos at the Letter to Women of Malolos. So, tatalakayin dito kung paano ipinakita ni Rizal ang kahalagahan ng courage o katapangan, initiative o pagkukusa at women's empowerment sa leadership at sa pag-unlad ng lipunan. So, next. So, what do you mean by courage and initiative? So here in the bullet 1, Filipinos must develop bravery, self-respect, and unity to achieve progress and freedom. So, ayon kay Rizal, mahalaga na magkaroon ang mga Filipino ng tapang respeto sa sarili at pagkakaisa upang makamit ang tunay na kalayaan at kaunlaran. Kapag we have a bravery or katapangan ng tao, is hindi siya natatakot ipaglaban ang tama. Ang self-respect naman po ay pagpapahalaga sa sariling kakayahan at dignidad bilang isang mamamayang Pilipino. Samantala, ang unity naman o ang pagkakaisa ay mahalaga dahil mas nagiging malakas ang isang bansa kapag natutulungan ang isang mamamayan. So next, true leaders are courageous enough to stand for justice and take initiative in solving problems. So dito is ipinapakita ni Rizal na ang tunay na leader ay matapang na lumalaban para sa tama at hindi natatakot magsalita laban sa mali or injustice. And bukod dito is, ang leader ay may initiative o pagkukusa. Hindi siya naghihintay ng ibang tao pa ang gumawa ng kanyang solusyon. Siya mismo ang kumikilos upang makatulong sa problema ng community or sa isang country. So next bullet is the leadership requires action, vision, and willingness to sacrifice. So ayon din kay Rizal is hindi sapat na puro salita lamang ang isang leader. Kailangan may action o gawa. Kailangan din may vision o malinaw na plano para sa kinabukasan. At higit sa lahat is handang magsakripisyo ang isang leader para sa kapakanan ng iba at ng kanyang mahal na bayan. So next slide is the importance in leadership. So courage helps people face challenges in difficulties. So ang courage is tumutulong sa isang tao upang harapin ang mga problema at pagsubok sa buhay. And when it comes to leadership naman po is mahalaga ito dahil maraming hamon ang kailangang lampasan. Kung walang tapang ang isang leader, mahihirapan siyang gumawa ng desisyon at mamuno sa kanyang mamamayan o sa kanyang bayan. So next is the initiative allows leaders to create solutions and positive change. So it talks here about sa pagiging masipag at kusang kumikilos kahit walang utos. Kapag may initiative ang isang leader is nakakagawa siya ng paraan upang maresolba ang problema at makapagbigay ng positibong pagbabago sa isang lipunan. And the last is leadership inspires others to work for a better community. So, ang mabuting leader is nagsisilbing inspirasyon sa ibang tao dahil sa kanyang magagandang halimbawa na engganyo rin ang iba na tumulong at makiisa para sa ikabubuti ng komunidad. Gaya na lamang ng ipinakita at ipinamalas ni Dr. Jose Rizal. And next slide is the indolence of the Filipinos. So Rizal defended Filipinos from accusations of laziness. So sa akdang ito is ipinagtanggol ni Rizal ang mga Pilipino laban sa mga paratang na sila ay isang tamad. Ipinaliwanag niya rin na hindi likas na tamad ang mga Pilipino. May mga dahilan kung bakit naging mahina ang kanilang sigla at kakayahan noon. So next is the colonial oppression and lack of opportunities caused inactivity. So ayon kay Rizal, ang tunay na dahilan ng pagiging inactive ng mga Pilipino ay ang pag-aabuso ng mga mananakop, kakulangan ng edukasyon at kawalan ng oportunidad. At dahil dito is nawalan ng gana at pag-asa ang maraming Pilipino noong panahon ng kolonyalismo. And next is the Filipinos should regain confidence and actively participate in nation building. So hinihikayat ni Rizal ang mga Pilipino na maniwala muli sa kanilang sarili, magsikap at makiisa sa pagpapaunlad ng kanilang bansa. Ipinapakita nito na mahalaga ang initiative dahil nagsisimula ang progreso kapag handang kumilos ang tao kahit may kahirapan. So next slide is the modern reflections on women's empowerment. So, the first bullet is Rizal praised the women of Malolos for their courage. So, pinuri ni Rizal ang mga kababaihan ng Malolos dahil naging matapang sila sa paghingi ng karapatan sa kanilang edukasyon. Hindi sila natakot na ipaglaban ang kanilang paniniwala kahit may mga taong tumututol sa kanila. Next is the women are strong contributors to society and the nation's future. So, ayon din kay Rizal ay hindi lamang pangbahay ang papel ng isang kababaihan. Mahalaga rin ang kanilang kontribusyon sa lipunan at sa kinabukasan ng bansa. Ang mga babae raw ay maaaring maging leader, guro, doktor, abogado at iba pang propesyon na kagaya na lamang ng ginagawa ng mga kalalakihan na tumutulong sa pag-unlad ng bansa. So next bullet is the educated and empowered women inspire social change. Kapag naman may edukasyon at sapat na kakayahan ang kababaihan, mas nagiging malakas ang kanilang boses sa lipunan. Nakakatulong din sila upang magkaroon ng pagbabago at mas maayos na komunidad ang isang bansa. So next slide is the women's empowerment today. So women continue to break barriers in different fields. So, hanggang sa kasulukuyan ngayon is maraming kababaihan ang nagtatagumpay sa larangan ng edukasyon, politika, negosyo at sa leadership. Pinapakita nito na kaya rin ng kababaihan na mamuno at magtagumpay katulad na lamang ng mga kalalakihan. So next, women today speak against injustice and strive for equality. So maraming kababaihan ngayon ang matapang na nagsasalita laban sa diskriminasyon at hindi pagkakapantay-pantay. Ipinaglalaban nila ang equal rights at respeto para sa lahat. So next is the empowering women strengthens society. So ipinapaalala din ni Rizal na kapag empowered ang kababaihan is mas magiging matatag ang pamilya, komunidad at buong bansa. Kapag may pantay na oportunidad ang babae at lalaki ay mas mabilis umunlad ang lipunan. So in conclusion, ipinapakita ng mga akda ni Rizal na mahalaga ang courage, initiative at ang women's empowerment upang magkaroon ng mabuting leadership at maunlad ng mga mamamayan sa isang bansa.
So here in the Adolescent of the Filipino is an essay written by Jose Rizal to explain Spanish colonization. Rizal said that the Philippines is not natural, lazy, or tamad. He explained that the real reason were the bad system of Spanish government. Sa bad system is merong forced labor, high tax, lack of education, and unfair treatment to Filipinos. So that's why that is the effect kung bakit tinawag ang mga Filipino na tamad. Bakit sino ba naman ang gusto mag-work if the system is bad because pino-force na mag-labor, kabarhay pa yung tax, tapos walang education and unfair treatment sa mga Filipino. For yung Spaniard come in the Philippines, ang mga Filipino is hardworking and active in trade with other countries. But because of the colonization, people lost motivation to work. So that's why nawala ng gana ang mga Filipino to be hardworking and active in trade because sa colonization of Spaniard. Ito daw sa number 1 is explain is, yung mga Filipino daw dati is hardworking at nagbebenta tayo ng mga, or nagte-trading tayo sa iba't ibang bansa tulad na ng China, Japan, Arabia, and other countries. Ito sa number 2 is Galilean trade is affected local business because of the control of Spanish, so local industry disappeared. So dahil sa pagkocontrol ng Spain sa ating trade, nawala din ang mga local industry o local business sa Pilipinas. So here, sa number 3 is forced labor or polo y serbisyo. So ang mga Filipino ay forsahang tinatrabaho ng mga Spaniard tulad na lamang ng mga trabaho ng road, ship, and leaving their farm and job. So dahil sa pagpo-force na mag-work sa mga Filipino is napapabayaan na ng mga Pilipino ang kanilang farm at ang kanilang mga job dahil nga sa polo y serbisyo na ginagawa ng Spaniard. So in the number 4 is lack of protection. Dahil ang Spaniard is hindi pinoprotektahan ang mga Filipino. So ang mga piratas or ang mga pirata or mga enemy ng mga Pilipino is ninanakaw ang mga homes at land. Dahil dito nawawalan ng interes ang mga Filipino to work. Nawawala yung kanilang hard work kasi nga wala silang protection and yung mga bahay na ginawa nila or job nawawala kasi nga sa mga pirates. Number 5, poor education system. Dito is poor yung education sa Pilipinas kasi hindi tinuturuan ang mga Pilipino sa mga useful skills katulad na naman ng agriculture or industry. Kaya poor ang education sa Pilipinas dati. 6. Bad example from Spanish official. Ang mga official is mga tamad and dinidepende nila ang mga gawain on the servant. Kaya ang mga Pilipino is, the people is complied them. So, sa Spanish colonization is, dito na is nabuo na yung mga sabong, gambling, and bad habit. At ito ay parang common na lang dati sa Spanish colonization. Sila yung parang nagbigay sa atin o nagturo sa atin about sa gambling, fighting, or yung pagsasabong. So, here's the number 8, abuse of religion. So, dito is parang ang mga mahihirap is, instead na ini-improve nila ang kanilang life, is parang okay na sa kanila na mahirap sila. Number 9, high tax and exploitation. So, dito is, kahit sa sobrang hardworking o nagtatrabaho na ang mga Pilipino, most of their earning is napupunta pa rin sa gobyerno because sobrang high ng tax na binabayaran nila. So, number 10 is climate also affect work. So, dito sinabi ni Rizal daw is yung climate o yung panahon is nakakaapekto sa mga trabaho ng mga Pilipino. Either mainit o malamig. Is ang mga Pilipino is walang unity. Kaya they could not fight oppression by themselves. Sa essay ni Rizal is sinabi niya na ang mga Pilipino is not tamad by nature or lazy by nature. Nagiging lazy or tamad ang mga Pilipino because the unfair system and loss of hope na nararamdam nila sa Spaniard.
Hello everyone, I am Geraldine F. Ortega from BEd 2B. Today we are going to talk about the impact of colonization on Filipino work ethic and morale.
So the first, in fact, is the indolence provision. Rizal noted that perceived laziness was a direct result of the lack of incentive for Filipinos, known as Indios, to work under Spanish exploitation rather than an inherent trait. Second is the colonial mentality. In colonial mentality, centuries of rule resulted in an inferiority complex where the Filipino often preferred foreign goods and culture over their own, damaging self-pride. And the third one is the allied collaboration. Spanish and American authorities replaced local leaders with collaborators, fostering a culture of patronage rather than meritocracy. And the last one is the export of labor, which is current economic conditions still reflect colonial patterns for seeing many skilled Filipino to work overseas, creating a modern reliance on remittances. Next, we are going to talk about the critique of social, economic, and political structure. So the first one is the economics exploitation, which is the Spanish introduced the encomienda system for forced labor and tribute, while the Americans solidified capitalist structures that prioritize raw materials export over domestic industrialization. And the second one is the social stratification, which is a highlight stratified system was established with colonial master at the top, leading to land concentration and profound wealth inequality. And the third one is about political dynasties, where in the modern Philippines, politics are heavily influenced by the by the remnants of the colonial elite, with families maintaining power over generations. And the last one is the loss of agency, where the local independent communities or the barangays were stripped rather of autonomy, replacing democratic pre-colonial systems with centralized authoritarian structure. That's all.
Good day everyone, this is Racine Pidalan, and my part is the role of environment and opportunity in shaping behavior. So first, we have the main idea. Behavior is not informed or fixed, it is influenced by the environment, opportunities, and people change depending on their situation. So it means behavior is not something people are born with or cannot change. It is shaped by the environment like family, cultures, or the surroundings, and the opportunities available to a person. So next, we have the environment shaped behavior during the Spanish colonization. During the Spanish colonization, Filipino faced oppression, limited freedom, and unfair treatment. Because of this condition, some appeared passive or indolent. However, Rizal argued that this behavior was not natural, but a result of environment and lack of opportunities. So these are the lack of opportunities Filipinos were denied. So first, we have the quality education. Second is the equal rights. And third is the job and economic opportunities. So the effect of this is the limited personal growth and skill were not fully developed. So the last is behavior can change. From the Philippines, a century hence. If conditions improve, people become productive, more active in society, and fight for their rights, and behavior is not permanent.
Good day everyone, my name is Napoleon Duras. So today I will going to report my part. It's all about relevance of Rizal analysis in contemporary society. First, why his 19th century ideas still matter in 2026. So now I start by framing Rizal not just as a historical figure, but as a social analyst. His novels weren't just stories, they were critics of society. Even though he wrote in the 80s many of the problems he pointed out are still around today. So next, we have corruption in abuse of power. We have Rizal exposed friar abuse plus government corruption in Nole and El Fele. So we have today political analysis, red tape, misuse of public funds. So we have relevance, his all for accountability in good government still applies. In Noli Me Tangere, Father Damaso and other friars abused their authority. In El Filibusterismo, results show corrupt officials serving themselves. So today we see a similar issues. With politicians trading position like family, inheritance, slow government service, and scandals involving public money. Rizal point was simple: a country cannot progress if leaders aren't accountable. Next, educational as liberation. Next, education as liberation. Rizal education key to freedom from ignorance and colonial mentality. Today, a fake news, low media literacy, unequal access to quality education. Our relevance is we have critical thinking is the modern antidote. Rizal believed ignorance keep Filipinos under colonial rule. That's why he pushed for schools and learning. In 2026, the new ignorance looks like misinformation, social media, and people falling for scams or fake news. Or geography, Rizal would argue that teaching people how to think, not what to think, is still the best defense against manipulation. So next, we have a social inequality. El Filibusterismo showed the elite versus poor gap. So we have today poverty, lands issue, lack of opportunities for marginalized groups. For our relevance, challenge us to question and spur systems. Remember Kabisang Talis and El Filibusterismo. He lost his land to the rich and powerful. Rizal was showing how the system favored the elite while crushing ordinary people. So today we still see huge wealth gaps. Some families can't afford college or healthcare, while others have massive advantages. Rizal analysis porous as to us are our laws and institutions helping everyone or just a few. Next, we have our nationalism and identify. Rizal loved the country but critic its flaws. Today, colonial mentality is beauty standards, language, product, and preference. Relevance pushes for critical patriotism and pride in Filipino culture. Rizal was a nationalist but not a blind one. He criticized Filipinos for imitating colonizers and looking down on their own cultures. That's colonial mentality today. It shows up when we think foreign brands are automatically better, or when are we ashamed to speak our local languages. Rizal wanted Filipinos to take pride in who we are while fixing what's broken. The balance of love plus critique is what modern patriotism should look like. Next is about youth empowerment. The youth is the hope of the fatherland. So today, Gen Z and millennial shaping this courage via social media, activism, and we have a relevance. Youth remain key drivers of change if educated and principled. Rizal put huge trust in young people. Characters like Basilio and Isagan and El Filibusterismo represented youth who could either confirm or write for change. Today, youth lead online movements, call out injustice, and create solutions through teach and startups. But Rizal's conditions was clear: youth are the hope if they're educated, morally upright, and engaged. It's a challenge to our generation to live up to that. So, next is we have what online. Rizal diagnosed social diseases, corruption, apathy, injustice, miseducation. Those diseases still exist. So his perception still works. Think of Rizal like a doctor. He studied Philippine society, found the illness, and wrote perceptions. Good governance, education, nationalism, youth actions, and illnesses haven't been fully cured. That's why reading Rizal is not just for compliance in class, it's a guide for what we still need to fix today. So last one, we have reflection question. Which of Rizal critics do you see most in your country today? And how can you respond like modern Rizal? And by making impersonal Rizal, they didn't just complain, he acted through writing, teaching, and saving work. Ask the class, if you were Rizal today, what problem and would you use TikTok instead of novels? How would you educate others? The goal is to show that Rizal relevance depends on us. So that's all my part. Thank you.